Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth podcast. I'm Jack Smith.
I'm Shrikar Rajendran.
And I'm Anish Gupta.
And we said after last week that we had finally not seen such a great week of football. And I feel like you could say the same thing about this past week. Week 7, tons of blowouts again, tons of just non-competitive games, some pretty cruddy play from a lot of teams. But it was still a fun week. So, guys, how was your football weekend?
Let's not even get started with my football weekend. Worst week of football by far this season for me.
You didn't listen to me.
Whoa, what do you mean I didn't listen to you? Okay, well, first of all,
the Colts were gonna go in there and win.
Okay, it's not only that, but it's the Niners losing my lead in picks. I'm now last. There's just a lot of things that went wrong. There's still room to bounce back with the picks, but oh man, the Niners are a hot mess right now. It's unfortunate, but football week was bad. There's going to be better ones ahead.
I had a good football weekend. Finally, the first time I can say that. The Browns won on Thursday. D'Ernest Johnson, oh my God. Finally, people are noticing how good he is. He had a great game last year, and I was all for him, making the roster this year, and he was a bit amazing. And then on Sunday night, the Colts come in, and Carson Wentz, though he had some bad throws to start off, picked it up, won ugly, which is something that good quarterbacks do. That was good. That was a good end to the kind of the weekend. I lost a couple leagues in fantasy. I won a couple, so it was kind of mediocre there. But I hope Niner fans who are watching this are finally going to realize that Sean McVay is better than Kyle Shanahan. So that's my message, and good football weekend. Oh, and the Jets.
I feel like we're a couple weeks away from Kyle Shanahan being one of our weekly takeaways. Because man, I'm not sold on him very much anymore.
I've been saying this, and no one has picked up on it. Kyle Shanahan is a little bit overrated. I've said it. People don't want to believe it.
He might be coming up on a lot of bit overrated though.
Now it's been
it's not even a bit. He's been terrible.
Wait, but Sean McVay? I thought he was supposed to be better coach. I don't know.
That's how the NFL works.
I guess I'm seeing on my different TV, but it's okay.
Anyways, my football weekend, I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know how most people say, like, when their team is on bye, they just kind of get a pass. They can watch the rest of the NFL. That's basically been this season for Jets fans. It's a guaranteed blowout basically every week, except for one where they randomly beat the Titans. And so, they go down early, 14-0. Zach Wilson gets hurt. And I'm like, you know what? That's great. I can just go watch the rest of the games, watch some good football. The Bengals surprisingly beat up on the Ravens. There's a lot of good play around the league. I think 3 or 4 fantasy leagues, and it makes no sense because the league, which I have the worst record in, is by far my best team. I just traded for Burrow, but before I had Burrow, it was Tannehill, Aaron Jones, Zeke, Terry McLaurin, Stephon Diggs, a mixture of like Dalton Schultz, Rob Gronkowski, DeAndre Swift in the flex, and then random defenses and kickers. And I'm 3-4. And so hopefully this trade for Burrow kickstarts the team because super team like that should not be losing games. It makes no sense to me, but it was still a good football weekend. Took the lead in picks rather substantially. I'm pretty sure. I think I'm up by like 2 games.
Yeah.
So it was a good week. And hopefully this one can be a good week as well. My takeaway, if we're willing to get into that, from last week, Shrikar and I know we shared this one, and I asked him, like, can I use this on the pod? Because this is one of the things I want to talk about. The Chiefs are in serious trouble. Like we've said over the past couple of weeks, they're maybe a couple of weeks away from worrying about whether they got to make the playoffs. They have to start worrying like right now. I'm going to read you a list of things that the Chiefs are 32nd in the NFL in. Turnovers, points allowed, yards per play allowed, and first downs allowed. And like, if you want to go on to 31st in the league, rushing yards allowed and pass yards allowed. Like they are unequivocally the worst defense in football this year. And the thing is, in past years when defenses in a game didn't perform super well, their offense could dig them out of that hole. And this year it has just not been the same. Mahomes is just not hitting on the throws he normally does, whether that's the receivers dropping it, them just kind of being picked because he throws it a little bit too far. He's got more picks already than he did all of last year. The receivers, honestly, the last couple of games have gotten clamped. They got starting in the Bills game. They've just not been able to get open like they normally do. And without Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even with Darrell Williams, they're just not running the ball at a well enough level to win football games, and they've got an absolutely brutal schedule coming up as well. They get the Giants in like a get right game this Monday night, which if the Giants had a couple more people healthy, you could have started to argue about that maybe being an upset, say Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney, Saquon Barkley. You could have seen it. But after that, they get the Packers in KC. They're at Las Vegas, Cowboys in KC. They get the Broncos, so that's fine. But then 3 of their next 4 games are the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Bengals. So if the Chiefs win this game against the Giants, they're facing that murderer's row of like 7 of 8 games against teams that right now would be in the playoffs. And if they don't win, I mean, they almost have to be perfect through that stretch. Like, it is going to take not a miracle, but it's going to take a lot for the Chiefs to bounce back, get right. Obviously, the Chiefs are the Chiefs, so we have no idea. They could break out of this slump and go into the playoffs, surge in, maybe even steal a bye, win the AFC West. But right now, things are looking rather dire, and the schedule coming up is just, it's hell. It's hell.
I was curious on what their win total was, when it comes to betting. The over-under's at 9.5. Right now, I'm betting the under. I think they're a 9-8, 8-9 team. If they do make the playoffs, I truly see them as a wild card exit. Like, they're not that impressive to me. And defense is so key in the playoffs. And if they don't got it right now, the Seahawks didn't have it last year until the second half, and they still were a wild card exit. But I think we do have to put some blame on Mahomes, because even if some of his interceptions are not on him, I think my biggest problem with Mahomes is he just gets too cute and doesn't take what the defense gives him at times. Like, he will drift out of the pocket, even though he has a great O-line. The O-line's been fantastic, by the way. The interior especially has been really good. But sometimes he can catch him drifting out of the pocket too early and, trying to find the big play when it's not there. And he's just trying to force it. And that can lead to a lot of turnovers. And as we see, he's at 16 picks right now, or 16 turnovers, something like that. It's a pretty big number. But I think with the Chiefs defense, it's the second highest paid defense in football. This is just inexcusable. It's inexcusable on Spagnuolo's part. It's inexcusable on the actual personnel. It's not good at all. It's a historically bad defense, and ultimately it's going to keep sinking Kansas City no matter how the offense does. So I think when we look at the rest of the schedule, I think they'll win the games they're supposed to win. I don't know what that may be as they go into a pretty tough slate. But look, they're really in danger of missing the playoffs. And, they're going to have a lot of questions in the offseason. And it really starts with Brett Veach rebuilding this whole defense and trying to get better personnel out there.
First off, I think the Chiefs, right? Look, they're still favored by 9.5 against this Giants team. And I'm going to defend them a little bit here. And I'll say this. So I was actually going to bring up the schedule, but I'm glad Jack did. So I think the Chiefs have to go, and I'll say this, and you can quote me on this. They have to go 3-1 or better in their next 4 games, right? And you said Cowboys, Raiders, Packers, and Giants, right? They have to go 3-1 or better in those next 4 games in order to have a chance. And I think if they go 3-1, they're building momentum, right? And that I think they could sneak in as a wild card. If they go 2-2 or worse, the season's done. The season's done. I think that's fair to say. But here's my thing, right? Someone said, I don't know who, but I think it was someone on ESPN said that teams are not afraid of the Chiefs anymore. I heavily disagree. I completely disagree with that. If you were an NFL team, if your favorite team was playing in January and you saw the Chiefs as a 6 seed coming into your building, I'm scared as hell. I'm not taking them lightly. I don't care that I'm home. I have a better record. I played better in the regular season. One thing that this team has is experience. Their top players all have won a Super Bowl with that team. So they know, what it takes to win a football game in January in the cold, where the game slows down. You need to pick it up the pace in Miami, right? Super Bowl 54. So I think in terms of that, I'm not so worried about the Chiefs, but you're right. There has to be some concerns in that locker room. I'm sure everyone's kind of thinking, they're kind of on their heels right now. And I think that's kind of my biggest takeaway for the Chiefs, right? It's just these next 4 games, you have to go 3-1. And I think that's when we'll get a real test of what the Chiefs are. I think right now, yes, you're right. The defense has been terrible. We can bring up all these stats. Mahomes, like you said, Shrikar is getting too cute with the football. I agree. Again, I've said this, for the last 3-4 weeks, he's dying more than he's living on these a little bit of these careless throws. And I did a video on him with the whole QB Whisperer series last year. And I said my one flaw was that he just takes unnecessary sacks and these big dropbacks. And that's exactly what he's doing. It's just showing a little bit more. I don't think he's been figured out yet. I still don't get what that means like fully. Because he still had a couple 4 or 5 touchdown games this year. So like he's not been figured out. It's just like Jack said, his receivers can't get separation. They're finding great ways to double team Tyreek. And I think I said it last week too. This offense kind of runs on him. I think he's a little bit more important than Travis Kelce is, just because, again, Tyreek can take the top off of defense. He can change the game within a play like he did week 1. But yeah, I think that's kind of my takeaway on the Chiefs. The next 4 games will really give us a timetable. But, if they lose against the Giants, right, then it's like, oh my God, okay, 3-5. And like I said, right, you gotta, what do you call it? Win the next 3. That's my kind of goal, or that's my kind of takeaway. 3-1 the next 4 games, you got a shot. If you don't win 3 out of the next 4, you're done.
And I get what you're saying about like the 3-1 or 2-2 thing, but I kind of have the feeling, and I think that you could argue that like the Chiefs need to impressively win this Giants game. Like I don't think them sneaking out, winning by like 7 is. I just don't think that's going to kickstart what they need in order to win the next 3 games. And the point you make, like obviously Mahomes hasn't been figured out, but to a certain extent, this offense has been figured out. I mean, teams are realizing, and it seems like they figured out how to guard both Hill and Kelce on the same play. That's their bread and butter over the last couple of years. Is fine. You can take away one, the other will be open. And it just seems like this year that like kind of back and forth either or option, making the teams pick, is just not working like it has in past years. And maybe that's because the Chiefs, their recent drafting style, they found some stars, but the middle of their roster is just barren. It's among one of the worst in the league. The middle to deep parts of their roster are below average. And
you're right, but I think it's more figuring out the whole option routes that they do and the spread formations that they do. But I will say this, like about the quick point about the Giants thing. It's just, I think one of the best things that Kevin Stefanski says, and I think a decent amount of coaches say this, is you got to go 1-0 every week, and I think that's how the Chiefs should take it. So even if it is a 7-point win against New York, what matters for them is just seeing those wins tally. I think that's what's important for them right now. You're right. Remember, like my reasoning for why I thought the Chiefs would win, right, was because I thought it would be a statement game and would kind of, insert them back into everyone's top 3 in the AFC. Because right now, I feel like we can name 4 or 5 teams better than them in the AFC. So,
definitely. Easily.
I think for them, it's just got to be this 1-0 mentality.
At the very
least.
That.
And I'm not saying like it's absolutely necessary, but you're kind of getting the feeling that one of these wins, like even if they go 3-1, one of those wins has to be a big statement. Like it feels like just going 1-0 every week might not be enough.
And at the very least, if you don't win impressively against the Giants, at least it can set something up. It can set up for the next week. Maybe we get that Chiefs explosion there. It'll come eventually. I mean, I'm not doubting it. I think we're going to get a Chiefs explosion eventually. Will it be against the Giants? Who knows? But I guess like I would agree with Anish in that you have to go 1-0 every week. Just get momentum slowly but surely. I guess that's just what I say. But my takeaway, we're going to stick in the AFC. We're going to look in the wild card race. I think the New England Patriots are squarely in that wild card chase. And I mean, they've beat the Texans, Jets twice. So they've lost to Miami. And otherwise, they've lost to potential playoff contenders, the Saints, the Bucks. You've lost to Dallas. So have we really seen the Pats get a quality win yet? I don't really think so, because even in that Texans win, they barely eked it out. So here's the good news. Mac Jones just got his first 300-yard game, which is great. And I think with Bill Belichick, you're always going to have a great game plan. And I feel like the defense will always keep, a limited offense in the game, which is great about the Pats. It's just how they've been running it for years. But I think the bad news is the rest of their schedule is pretty tough. It starts with the Chargers this weekend, obviously. And then you got to face the Browns in 2 weeks. You got the Titans, the Bills twice, I should say. You get a bye in week 14, which is not very good, but it's far ahead. So who knows? I think with this game coming up against the Chargers, it's going to say a lot about, their trajectory this season, how they're going to do, because keep in mind, the Chargers are coming off a bye. If the Pats win this game, which they did last year, they won 45-0. If the Pats can beat a well-rested Chargers in their building, I would strongly consider them as a wildcard team, or even better, because you can never count out Bill Belichick. But, this would only further affirm that, the Pats are here.
So the Pats are 3-4, right? They're currently 3-4, and they beat the Jets soundly 54-13. And I think My thing is I think they need to just take the training wheels off of Mac Jones. And I saw someone else say this, and I think I agree with it. It's because they've been very conservative. They've played a very, like you said, Shrikar, limited offense, especially against Tampa, right? You kind of saw it towards the bulk of that Cowboys game too. I think they just need to start, letting Mac throw the ball downfield a little bit more. They're doing all these trick plays, right? They're getting their receivers to kind of, be more versatile. They have a bunch of those guys: Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers. All those guys can do different things. I love Hunter Henry in the red zone. But I think to get in this wild card race, you gotta have some quality wins, as you said. I think the Chargers game will be a really good test for Mac, because it's always great to see young quarterbacks go up against each other, because you can really compare their trajectories. I think that's a really good test for Mac Jones, to go up against a guy who's not really fully proved it, but we all know and we all consider him in our top 10 right now. It's Justin Herbert. So I think, I love quarterbacks like these going head to head, because it gives us a good takeaway from a game, and it gives us a good telling test of what they can do. So I think that's my Patriots takeaway. I think they are squarely in the wild card race. I think seeds 6 and 7, I think, are going to be really up in the air. There's a bunch of teams vying for it right now. If anyone falls off due to injury, someone could take that next step up. But I think right now, the 6 seed, if I'm not mistaken, I know the 7 seed is Cleveland. I'm not sure who the 6 seed is off the top.
Well, the 5 and 6 would be one
Baltimore.
of the Raiders and the Chargers, and it would be one of the Browns and the Bengals.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's Baltimore
Ravens and
5,
Bengals.
Chargers 6. You're right. It's Baltimore 5, Chargers 6. And I think the Browns are 7, Steelers are 8, and the Colts are 9, and the Pats are 10. So I think those are all teams that could be vying for the 6 to 7 spot. So I think it really just comes up to who can elevate and who's going to kind of go down. But I don't think the Patriots can really elevate, to like another level. That's my only problem. So I think they're limited by the talent that they have, which, sucks. But I think that's kind of my picture. I can see them making it as a 7 seed, but it's going to be a long shot.
The schedule is the one thing holding me back from agreeing with you. Like, they're squarely in the wild card race right now, but I just can't predict them to be a wild card at the moment. Like, with the schedule,
I'm not saying they're going to be a wild card. I'm just saying, as of right now, and this game, as Anish said, will be a big test.
No, I definitely agree. It's a big test, and it'll tell us a lot. And you'll see who I have winning when we get to picks later. But I have been impressed in some games with the Patriots. But I do think it is a point that needs to be pointed out. Their wins are against the Jets twice and
Yep.
the Texans. And so it's really tough to envision a path in which they get through that schedule and end up in as a wild card, because there's all the teams we mentioned above them. They're probably like 10th right now. We're assuming the Chiefs, like, if the Chiefs make the playoffs, that's one less spot for them to take. Do I think that they can pass up a team like the Steelers? Yes. The Colts, maybe. The Bengals or the Ravens, whichever one doesn't win the division, no. The Raiders, at this moment, I think probably not. And so it's I think if they make it, would have to be as that 7 seed. And of course, in the NFL, anything is possible. But
Yep.
I just don't think that they are an explosive enough team to go out and consistently win those big games, especially when you have them stacked week after week after week. It's really tough. If anyone could do it, it's Bill. But I think the team right now is a solid team, but I just don't think with the schedule that they've got down the road, there's much that they can do in order to come out like as a wild card team.
Keep in mind, what's going to limit them is their record in conference games, because they have to play a lot of AFC heavyweights. That's going to be their downfall. All right. So my takeaway, and you know what, everyone's going to call it bias, but it's not bias. And I think the offensive player of the year right now should go to Cooper Kupp, not Derrick Henry, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams. And I'll give a reason why. I think, look, and no one should ever call me a Derrick Henry hater. I never want to hear any of this, because I was one of those people that said Derrick Henry would be an absolute stud in 2019, and that 4-game stretch in 2018 was not a fluke. So I've always been high on Derrick Henry. But I think for Cooper Kupp, my reasoning is that as of right now, okay, let me just read some of the numbers to you. He's leading the league in catches, yards, and touchdowns, all 3, okay, yards per game. And he has 809 yards through 7 weeks. Most receivers that start don't get 809 yards in a season, okay? And this dude is on pace to break the receiving record. He's on pace to get really close to the receptions record, and his touchdowns are probably not going to beat Randy Moss, but they're going to be up there. And I think, look, it's kind of just beating the rules of the award. I think if he continues this pace, right, people are going to start looking at the numbers a little bit more than what they're showing right now, because as of right now, Derrick Henry has like a 200-yard lead on the next rusher in terms of rushing yards, which is because Nick Chubb has missed 2 games, but that's not, the here nor there. But I think for Cooper Kupp to do this, right, with a new quarterback, and I get it, he's better than Jared Goff, fine, but it's still kind of a new system that Stafford has to learn. And I think Kupp has been more beneficial to Stafford than Stafford has been to Kupp, because Kupp has always been a consistent 1,000-yard receiver. He's had 10 touchdown season before. He's been great ever since he came out of the league in 2017. But I think he's really helped Stafford, as you can tell, because Stafford was putting up good numbers with Calvin Johnson. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's, also due to McVay's play calling, but he's been on another level with Cooper Kupp. Like, we can put him in our top 5 this year in terms of, play. And I think Cooper Kupp has been just as important to the Rams offense as Derrick Henry has been. And I think it's going to be kind of similar to what Mike Thomas did and Christian McCaffrey did in 2019. They gave it to Mike. I think it's going to be a similar case here. And also Derrick Henry has won the award before. That's my case.
Jack, I'm gonna let you go. No, I'm gonna let you go.
We're both gonna disagree. I already know.
No, first of all, before I start, I don't want to discount a single thing that Cooper Kupp is doing.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the sole reason, basically, that I'm sitting at 6-1 in one of my fantasy leagues. I got him and Kyler on the same team, and it's just that they win me every week. But you can't give him the award over Derrick Henry. And as good as he's been not even 100 yards better than the second leading receiver in yards. He's not that astronomically higher in touchdowns. Receptions, he does have a pretty substantial lead, but you look at guys like Jamar Chase and Devontae Adams, and they've been having similar seasons. No one is having a similar season when compared to Derrick Henry.
Not even
He's
close.
First in the league in rushing, and he would be second in the league in rushing if you took all of his after contact numbers. He's a different beast. And I understand that it went to Michael Thomas over Christian McCaffrey a couple of years ago, but Cooper Kupp right now, I don't think he's going to break any records, long-standing NFL records that look untouchable for years to come. That's why Michael Thomas won the award. That's why I think they gave it to him over McCaffrey. And I think McCaffrey I don't think Kupp is having as good of a season as Thomas did that year. And I think Derrick Henry has a pretty good chance to have a better season than McCaffrey had in that year. So as of right now, I think you have to give it to Henry.
Look, I think it's a good case. And I'm giving a case for Kupp, and I'm not even trying to discount Henry. But what I would say is that the Titans have found they've found ways to win without him. Okay.
I know that.
I feel like the Rams could find a way to win without Cooper Kupp.
They haven't, though. They haven't. Every game they have needed him to have a good game. And in the one loss that they had, Kupp wasn't even shut down. It's just he didn't have his astronomically good game because Stafford couldn't find him. Stafford missed, I believe, I counted 4 or 5 throws that game against Arizona where Kupp was wide open. This dude is one of the best route runners, 20 yards plus downfield I have ever seen. Stafford missed him so many times, and I think that was a key reason why they just flat out got outplayed, right? The offense was struggling because Stafford couldn't hit him, and it's not saying Stafford is bad or anything. There were just some times where he underthrew him, and we've seen that. Everyone's seen it. Everyone knows that there have been games where Stafford has underthrown Kupp and Deshaun Jackson. But I will say this, Derrick Henry has been sensational. I think obviously those two are the leading candidates, and if anything, I think Derrick Henry should be in the MVP conversation rather than Offensive Player of the Year, because I think Derrick Henry, what he's doing in terms of his numbers, I think that's more MVP compared to what Offensive Player of the Year kind of represents. I think Kupp, I know that's a weird kind of thing to say, but I think everyone looks at, when you look at the Titans offense, everyone looks at just Derrick Henry, and I'm trying to get people to see beyond that because it is beyond that. But in terms of, what narrative is, and he's already had an Offensive Player of the Year, he's already led the league in rushing twice. And if he's building on top of that, right? And if he passes, what AP did in 2012, I could see the MVP award going to him. And I think that would pave the way for Kupp to win Offensive Player of the Year. But I will also say, for Derrick Henry, right? Again, he's had 2 quote unquote bad games for his standards, right? Week 1 against Arizona, they got blown out. And then week 7 against KC, where Tannehill and AJ Brown were the 2 contributors to that game. But I will say this, I think, it is a bit of a bold take, and I know it's a little bit far-fetched considering that he has to go on a record pace continuing for another 10 weeks to break this record, the receiving yard record held by Calvin Johnson. I believe it's 1964 yards, which is going to be tough to do, but if he can do it, I think it presents a real shot. And I think he's been really, really vital to this Rams offense. And I know there's some bias considering that, he's the guy, he's my boy, but I think he's been sensational.
I'll say this, considering the Derrick Henry and the MVP conversation, I definitely have him in the race. I just don't think he's going to win, just because it's still a QB award. For as good as Derrick Henry is going to be, it's going to go to a quarterback, and there's multiple different names you could throw in there.
I think, but let's say if they're all, but that's the thing, if they take votes away from each other, right? And I think if Derrick Henry elevates,
I think
even that it's still too tough.
It might be a year we get a quarterback that wins MVP and a different quarterback wins Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, we could do that, or we could do co-MVPs. And by the way, remember, Jack still has a take. I believe, what was it? Running back won't win an MVP. 1 year in the making so far. 9 more to go. That a running back will not win MVP. And hey, Derek, I love you, dude. Please do it so I can.
It's slowly trending away from a QB award, but I think for the time being, it's still.
What's making you say that?
What made you say that? I disagree.
No, in the coming years, maybe we could see a running back win MVP.
I don't know. I think if anyone's going to have a chance, it's going to be a dude who breaks the rushing record. And if anyone's going to do that, it's going to be Derrick Henry.
Especially with the added game. They're going to add another game potentially maybe in these coming years. We'll see, because they got to even out the schedule. So who knows? We could see the rushing
for quarterbacks too, though. I mean, it's been the last, 6 years? It's been a quarterback? 5 years?
No, a long time.
9. 2012 was the last one because Adrian.
Adrian Peterson. Yeah, that's that. I mean, it's already been almost a decade since the last one, and it's just I disagree with you. I think it's trending more towards being a quarterback award.
I agree with
as opposed to a way.
For this year, I get what you're saying with votes potentially taking away from each other, but I just don't think Derrick Henry's just going to win this. Yeah, I'd say it's between.
But I think again we got to recognize. I feel like he's still being underappreciated.
No one's taking anything away from Kupp. That's the thing. I think he's a top 10 receiver, already in my book.
Yeah.
Right now, he's easily a top 10 receiver for me. As you said, the consistency, I guess that Robert Woods over Cooper Kupp take is not looking very.
Yeah, no, it's not, isn't it?
I didn't say going forward. All I said was in those years.
I was the lone wolf on that one here, and I'm proud. I'm proud.
It's this is the same thing Anish does, because I had said 1 year that up to this point in their careers, Mike Evans had so far had a better career than Davante Adams. Davante Adams goes off last year, and he said, "Oh, look, you're wrong." I'm like, I'm not arguing.
Going off for the last 4 years. Let's not get it twisted. Davante Adams has been,
but
what I call.
But Mike Evans had a better career so far. And I didn't say, and he's better than Davante Adams, and I didn't say, and Robert Woods is better than Cooper Kupp.
He's not better than Cooper Kupp. He will never be, never was, and he never will be better than Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp has been better than him since he came out of the league in 2017. I will stand by that.
Also, let me give a quick shout out to Matt Stafford first. He's in my top 3 for 2021. For this year, I put him in my top 3. He leads the league in YPA. I think he leads the league in QBR as well. He has his team at 6-1.
I think Kyler has QBR.
I'm gonna recheck it, but he has his team at 6-1. Obviously, I think he elevates Cooper Kupp's play just as much as Cooper Kupp elevates Matthew Stafford's play. I think it's a great pairing. Yeah. But I mean, we got to give a quick shout out to Stafford if we're going to talk about the Rams.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of jumbled up stuff. I mean, Cooper Kupp, absolutely phenomenal year so far. He's been the best receiver in the league. I'd even go as far as to say that if I were to do a ranking right now, taking into account this year, maybe worth 50%, and then the last couple of years, base 50%, I could say he's a top 5 receiver. I could honestly see him slotting in there at 5. And for this year, obviously, he's number 1. And going forward, if I were to make a ranking saying going forward, these are my top 5, I think he's top 5.
This is so great. The 2 receivers, Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel, are going insane.
Oh yeah, if we're gonna
love it. I am so proud. I feel like a proud dad because I invested in these 2 guys. And by the way, like I said last year, that Deebo was going to be better than DK when he was healthy. What is happening right now? Oh yeah,
that's not what you said.
Yes, I did. I said when he comes back healthy, Deebo.
We have talked about so much random stuff in this segment. Let's just throw Deebo in there. We got to give respect to Deebo.
I have to. Yeah, it was
You are the biggest damn liar when it comes.
It was
to
a
picks. You just
how I'm
said
not
Debo
lying.
was-
You said DK was better than Debo. I said Debo would be better than will be better than DK. I said at that point last year that DK was better, but I said Debo will be better once he's back.
You said going into last year that it was like I remember what it was because it was a start bench.
Yeah,
and
I said Debo.
You said
Debo was
you just
better
said that
going into the
Debo
year.
was a better receiver than
going
DK.
into the year, and then in the middle of the year, I said DK was better, and then I said that Debo will be better once he's back healthy because we didn't know that Debo would get hurt with the foot injury. This was before that.
I mean, just wait until he has a quarterback that can throw consistently more than like 15 yards. And we'll
Debo
see.
or-
Who, DK or Debo? Because both of them need that guy.
Debo, they both have it. But no,
Yeah.
same with DK. Like, we'll see. DK Metcalf is still, I don't think anyone would disagree, a better receiver than Debo Samuel. And I don't think you could argue that.
I disagree.
I don't know.
I disagree.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I disagree.
Can you use DK in the amount of ways that you can use Debo Samuel? Answer me
That's
that.
what I've been trying to tell him.
They
He's
do
more.
different things.
He is a lot
I can
more
say
than
the
a
same
gadget
thing.
guy, and
I can
he's
say the same
proving
thing.
that this year.
Could you use Debo down the field as you can with DK?
Yes, you can.
Yes,
I feel like you can.
He's
He's
had
a good deep threat.
He's a great deep threat. Look, okay, just watch his tape. You'll see jump balls against the Ravens. You'll see him against the Lions. He has done it consistently, and he's a pretty good receiver down the field. Oh, and he did one against Seattle.
Jimmy literally throws him hospital balls, and he still catches them. It's crazy.
I think
I'm surprised Anish didn't bring up the one from. Was it from Trey Lance where literally he?
No,
was
that was wide
because of
open.
coverage? That's the type of play that
open.
Anish would blow up.
No, I would never blow that up. In fact, I blew it off on Trey Lance because you guys know I'm not the biggest fan of him. But
Yeah,
you
don't like
next
Which is the
segment.
biggest fan of Debo. Yeah, so we are going to be trying out a new segment. You guys just let us know what you think if you want it to come back in future weeks. But we want to talk about fantasy football a little bit more. Obviously, we all play it. We all enjoy it. And we want to help you guys out on our Instagram. Sometimes we throw up some like sit start decisions. We want to answer your guys' questions. And we just thought maybe we come each week. Each one of us has a start player. We have a sit player. We tell you why, just in case they're on your bubble. We want to tell you. So my fantasy start for this week, which is someone that if you have them, you got to make sure to jam him into your lineup. It's a little bit of an under the radar pick. It's going to be T. Higgins. He's been a player that I've been trying to buy low in fantasy leagues. Haven't had much success yet because people just don't want to move off of him as much, or they just don't respond. But T. Higgins last week led the Bengals in targets with 15 targets. Coming off of injury the past couple of weeks, he got 15 targets in one game. And it was for that, like it was an underwhelming performance. But in fantasy football, you follow the volume. It's a great Bengals offense. They're not going to have as many big plays as they did last week every single week. Like the big plays will go to Jamar Chase, but CJ Uzoma isn't going to have a 40, 50-yard touchdown every single week. And the Bengals this week, they're coming in, they're playing the Jets. They should be in the red zone a lot. And that is where T. Higgins thrives. He is the red zone piece of this Bengals offense. So while he hasn't been having as many, big plays because Jamar Chase is taking those, when it gets down to the red zone, he is their guy. So this week against the Jets, I think you really have to start T. Higgins.
Even though Jamar Chase is that big guy, Higgins is still getting a good amount of targets. Like the target share is actually still pretty good in Cincy, but my start of the week is actually going to be Damian Harris against the Chargers. Damian Harris, for the past couple of games, he's actually been doing pretty good. He's been getting better. And this Chargers run defense, I mentioned it, I think 1 or 2 podcast episodes ago, probably last podcast episode, it's not good. Their run defense is not good. So I could see Damian Harris having a big game, especially when I think the game plan for the Pats in this game is just going to be running the football and controlling the clock with the ground game. So I could see Damian Harris having a good game here and build off of those last few weeks where he's been improving and he's been looking a lot better.
Cool. So my fantasy start is Alvin Kamara. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Again, this one is not biased. It's just factual. Adam Thielen against the Dallas Cowboys. And I know this one's also kind of a bit obvious, but I think, there have been some games where people have been like, should I go off him? Because he did have 2 straight games under 50 yards, but in the other 4 that he's played, he's had a touchdown or over 100 yards in those 4. So I think you put him into your lineup against Dallas. Trayvon Diggs is going to kind of he's not really on an island. I think he plays side to side sometimes. So he's going to be on Jefferson a little bit. He's going to be on Thielen. And it's not even that because they play zone. He's a zone corner. So this whole like Trayvon Diggs is like an island. It's not really true.
It's not.
But yeah, so I think Thielen's gonna feast on this Dallas secondary, and I think it's gonna be kind of a back and forth game. I don't know Dak's status, so that'll be interesting. But I Thielen is my start. I think he's kind of picked it back up. I think he had 13 targets the week before against Carolina, so I think he's expected him to get volume, and I still think he is the best receiver on that team, wide receiver one. But I think Jefferson's gonna overtake him at the end of the game.
Man,
Couldn't make
you
it
were
one
killing
episode
it up
without
until
saying
you
it.
said that.
No, I'm not wrong.
That's a terrible take. That
Jefferson will
horrible
pass
take.
him in time, but as of right now, Thielen is still the wide
I
receiver.
still say as of right now, it's Jefferson.
It's a horrible take.
No.
Horrible take. My fantasy sit this week. So the starts players that we want you guys to jam into your lineup. Don't question it. Throw them in. The sit players are players where if you have the ability, like if you can afford to, try and keep these players on your bench this week. My fantasy sit is Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson, he's still kind of working through an injury. It's like a shin fracture. It does not sound very pleasant to play with. And he just doesn't have the role that we thought he would coming into fantasy drafts. I remember Shrieger came on and we were talking about, they were saying they were going to use him, Gibson, like the Panthers use McCaffrey, and it has been the complete opposite of that. He's getting unvaluable touches. He's not playing the 2-minute drill. He's not catching passes. Everything, like the valuable touches, are being funneled straight to JD McKissick. And so Antonio Gibson, unless he scores a touchdown, has been pretty bad in basically every fantasy football matchup this week. And this week he's playing the Denver Broncos. Well, I don't think that they're going to, blow him out of the water at all, but they're still a pretty decent defense. I think this game will be low scoring because I think the Washington defense is figuring it out as well. And so I feel like Antonio Gibson is not going to have a very good week. Of course, for the rest of the season, I think he's one of those guys that also, like, you wait until he has a good week, you try and move off of him. It sucks because I think he could have taken that McCaffrey role, and a lot of people in fantasy drafts are kind of suckered in to drafting him because of the things that were said, because of the outlook of the offense. And it's just been completely different. I think if you can afford to, if you got some other running backs, you jam Antonio Gibson on your bench and you throw those guys in the lineup instead.
Yeah, it's not that I'm disappointed in Gibson. I just wish they, utilized him a little bit better because I really want to see him thrive. Like, this is a guy I've really been rooting for. My sit of the week, it says I put Tua down, but realistically, like Tua, Gaskin, or Waddle, I would sit really any of them because this is a well-rested Bills defense who throttled Miami when they, of course, it was with Jacoby Brissett, but they throttled Miami in that week 2 game. And honestly, I don't really see any of those guys having a really great game. So if you have them starting right now, if you got someone that you want to throw in, I'd throw them in because I don't really think the Dolphins offense is going to look much better than it did in week 2, even with Tua starting over Jacoby Brissett. But I guess I'll point out Tua as my sit of the week, but I'd also include Gaskin and Waddle potentially in that combo.
I heavily disagree. I don't know what you whiffed on Waddle. I thought Waddle gets catches. If this is
but he's going up against the Bills, though.
No, I'm starting Waddle. I disagree with you on that one.
I think I agree with that. I think it's more Gaskin and
yeah,
Tua.
No, I think it's more Gaskin.
Fair enough.
Not even 2. I think 2. He'll be down, so he'll have to throw a lot. I think he'll get the yard.
But also, how many fantasy lineups are you gonna be starting Tua in?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't even think. But if it's a deep league, maybe. But yeah, Tua's probably
12 man's a good.
I would sit Gaskin, but I would give you a start on Waddle. I also have to start him in my 14-man, so I'm also a little bit defensive on that. But my sit of the week is a guy that I was high on coming into the year, and it really sucks to say this, but it's Brandon Cooks. He's going to go up against the Rams. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey is going to be on him. I don't think Tyrod Taylor is going to play on Sunday, even though there's a chance he might. It's going to be Davis Mills, and if it is, yeah, it's not going to be pretty. I don't think Brandon Cooks can get that much separation, and his confidence has just been shattered. You saw it against the Cardinals. I don't know if you guys did, but I saw it live. 4th down, he just dropped a wide open pass. He's very frustrated. I'm sure you guys saw the tweet after they traded Mark Ingram. He was like,
he doesn't want to be there.
This is, BS. He doesn't want to be there. Who could blame him? He's been the one kind of bright spot in this offense. And even then it's kind of been, his light has kind of been dimmed down. It really sucks to say this because I drafted him in almost every league I could. I think I have him in 6 out of 7. And the one I didn't, someone took him right before me and told everyone to start him. And then the first 3 weeks he popped off with Tyrod. And then, it kind of just went downhill from there. So that's my sit of the week. It sucks to say that, but yeah.
Well, yeah, let us know, please, if you guys enjoyed this segment. We'd be happy to do it every week. But if you guys don't want to, we'll move on and just kind of hit straight to picks. If you have any more start sit questions that maybe you don't follow the Instagram, weren't able to put them in the stories, leave them down in the comment section if you're on YouTube, and we'll be happy to answer them. Good luck in your fantasy football matchups this week. If you got any of these starter sits, just take what we said to heart. Think about it. If they fit
You don't
in your
have
lineup,
to listen, but I think we've got
you don't have to listen. No,
good
you don't have
some
to,
people,
man.
Yeah.
Some people may have Antonio Gibson as their RB1. They can't throw anyone in above him, and that makes sense. But moving on to picks, let's get into it quickly. Of course, every week, go to our Instagram, go to our stories. You can vote on it. Fans, you guys are in second place. Keep up the good work. Keep beating out these two. Keep them further down the list. But don't push me too hard. I want to stay in first place. Our first game of the week is the Panthers and the Falcons. Anish, do you want to start on that one?
Yes, I do. Unfortunately, I got class, so I gotta quickly do all my picks. But I'm taking Atlanta, and I'm buying stock right now into the Falcons. I want to save this kind of Falcons talk for maybe a little bit later down in the season, but I really think they can make a playoff push. They're 3-3 right now. They look good in these last 2 weeks against the Jets and the Dolphins, which obviously everyone's gonna look good against those two. But I think if they get this win against the Panthers, that's a 3-game win streak. I think they're riding some momentum going in, and I know they've got some tough matchups down the road, but I've loved how the offense played. Kyle Pitts is heme, and heme means amazing. So for anyone who's wondering, Kyle Pitts is really good. I think he could make a late rookie of the year push. We'll see. Obviously, I think Jamar's kind of got it locked up, but that 163-yard performance was sensational.
The Falcons, are 3-3, and they matter in the NFC playoff picture for now. And I didn't even realize it until a while ago.
Quietest 3-3 ever. I'm like, yeah,
it's crazy. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, you got the Panthers, and they are literally the football equivalent of the Titanic right now. So I'm going to take Atlanta. I'm not betting on a Sam Darnold get-right game
against
anymore.
Sam Darnold. It has worked the last month. It'll work again.
I'm trusting Matt Ryan in this game. I'm going with the Falcons.
Please take
Jack.
It. Please,
Jack.
I'm taking the Panthers, and it's despite Sam Darnold. Like I want to make sure this is not a biased pick because he's been just horrendous. I'm not afraid to admit that either, but I'm picking the Panthers, and I think that their defense matches up pretty well with this Falcons offense. And yeah, the Falcons have been playing better as of late, but again, it was the Jets who they barely beat and they almost choked against, and it's the Dolphins who they barely beat and they almost choked against. Like, I feel like a Falcons type of loss is brewing. Like, they are on the verge in the last 2 games of blowing it late. And I think that's kind of what happens again. The last time that we saw Sam Darnold, like, he had a bad game against was it Minnesota? Yeah, Minnesota. And then the last drive of the game, 96-yard touchdown drive. I just feel like the Panthers defense keeps them, like, the offense is just not that good. But the defense, I feel like it can keep them in this game. I think if Shaq Thompson plays, it's a really big deal because I feel like he can cover Cordero Patterson, who's been doing a lot of damage. And I also think he's one of the few players that I think is a pretty good matchup for Kyle Pitts. When I did the film breakdown on him, it's like there's no linebacker fast enough to keep up with him. There's no DB that's strong enough to play with him and be able to not get out physical by him. But I feel like Shaq Thompson is kind of a good enough combo of those things where he can keep up. He will win half the time, at least physically. And so I think he's a big X factor on that defense. And I just feel like if it comes down to the end of the game, I just smell like one of those Falcons losses.
Or you're
I just
trusting
feel it.
Sam more than Matt Ryan.
I'm not trusting Sam. I think
you don't want to say it. It's okay.
I'm not trusting Sam.
Matt Ryan's been pretty good too.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts.
Matt Ryan has been good, but
corners, by the way,
Matt Ryan's been good, but the chunk plays just aren't there anymore. Like,
yeah, I would feel so much better about this if
it does come eventually, but not as often as we saw in Falcons the years past.
Yeah,
all good.
I just don't think I'm not betting on him. I'm betting on the Panthers, and I know that's kind of tough, but I gotta go. I gotta do it. Next game is the Titans and the Colts. My guess is you're going Colts. I don't know. Do you have the balls to go Colts?
I know he's going Colts. I'll go first for this. Look, Indianapolis is playing better. They're getting healthier.
Wait, no, they're not. Their secondary's been ravaged. Blackman's out with
Nelson came back.
Yeah,
Nelson's
but that's
back.
like one guy. That's one
Carson
guy.
Wentz is getting healthier.
Yeah. But anyways, Tennessee, I think they're better than India. They're the better team. And they're playing like a real contender right now. Indy's going to be very desperate. I will say that. They are definitely the more desperate team in this one. They are at home in Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Titans have a good history of playing. I'm going to go with my gut. I'm going to stick with the Titans here. I was originally thinking Indy, but just looking at the track record of how well the Titans have done in Lucas Oil Stadium, and the fact that I just think they're the better team right now. I got to go with the Titans, and I got to go with my man Derrick Henry.
I don't think you can always look at the first matchup between a set of two teams to determine how the second one's going to play out. But when I went back and looked at the first game these teams played, the Titans won, and it wasn't all that close. And the Titans played like crap that game. Like, they were bad, and they still beat the Colts. I think it's going to happen again. I do think that the Titans end up winning this game, sweeping the Colts on the season. They're on fire right now. Tannehill, while he hasn't been putting up this like jaw-dropping stats, he's been playing well. Derrick Henry is the stat machine in that offense. AJ Brown, they didn't even have him the first time around against the Colts. He is a top 10 receiver, I think, for the rest of the season. We'll look back and realize just how good AJ Brown is. I think Julio is set to play. I'm not completely sure on that one, but it's just another weapon that the Titans have that I just don't think the Colts can match. The Colts will run the ball. I think both teams run the ball well in this game, but I just think the Titans are a better team. And I think looking back at their last matchup, the Titans, they won't win playing this the way they did, but the way they're playing right now and the score last time when the Titans didn't play well, I got to go Tennessee.
Okay. I'm going with the Colts. I am 7-0 on Colts picks, and I'm about to go 8-0. I'm going to go 8-0. I'm calling it. I'm speaking it into existence. Carson Wentz is 3-1 since he's been fully cleared to play with a full week of practice. Okay, 3-1. I don't care about the teams he beat. He's shown he can win ugly. The Colts have looked good on defense and on offense. Jonathan Taylor has emerged. He is honestly a top 8 back, if not better. This one really hurts because I think the Colts have to win this game if they want a shot at the division. And if they do, Titans are 5-3, the Colts are 4-4. Things get really interesting, and I am really hoping I'm right. But look, in all honesty, Titans are the better team. But I think, look, I know there's some bias in this pick, but if I really want to break it down, the Titans, both their big wins against the Bills and the Chiefs were at home. They're going to have to travel on the road, right? So I think, again, this whole riding high thing maybe gets added on. And I think the Colts, again, with Frank Reich, they never have this mentality. They never, take things for granted. They win ugly, and they're not afraid to go for, they're not afraid to take risks. They don't play conservative. And I think that's what I really love about, Indianapolis. They're willing to go for it on fourth down in the goal, in the red zone. And yes, they don't get it sometimes. And that cost them a couple games in the beginning of the year. But I think, push comes to the shove. I think the Colts can do it at home. I think, Jonathan Taylor needs to have a big game. And obviously Carson Wentz needs to outplay Ryan Tannehill, which I think is possible. And if that does happen, I think the Colts can win it. I know I'm gonna.
I applaud you. I applaud you for going there.
This is the Colts pick I'm least confident on out of the 7 that I've done. But hey, I'm 7-0. I'm the only one out of us 3 that are. Hopefully, I'm going 8-0 on this one.
In case you were wondering too, the 3 wins that Carson has in his 3-1 stretch, the teams he's beaten have combined for 4 wins and 16 losses.
I've heard it in 4 group chats. So I know, believe me, I know. It doesn't matter.
Well, the team they just beat, one of those 3 is the 49ers. They take on the Bears in maybe what is going to be the ugliest matchup of the week. Both teams have just
garbage matchup,
god-awful this year. Coaching decisions and everything has just gone wrong for both of these teams. We've talked about Shanahan. Matt Nagy won't be there to coach this game. Could be bad, but also Bears fans might argue it is a good thing for the Bears. I think no matter what, you got to take the 49ers. I just have to take the 49ers, but I think if they lose this game, I told this to Shrikar, we have to start considering Shanahan as a bottom half coach in the league.
I agree.
And I think you could argue he could be on the hot seat. Even though they just gave him a big
contract. Warming up.
What?
Coach, it's warming up, but
he top 5 coach better than Sean McVay on the hot seat? No way, dude.
He did buy himself time with the Trey Lance pick, though. Borrowed time, but time. I'm a Niner fan. I don't want to watch this game, man. I don't want to be put through this again. Justin Fields has no support. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's barely a starting quarterback at this point. He's so limited. I guess I'll take the Niners out of just not even pride, just taking my favorite team in a toss-up game. But look, if the Bears win, I'm not surprised at all. This could be a game where Justin Fields, has a breakout game of sorts. This could be a game where he really does well. Yeah, I'm gonna take the Niners here, but I don't like this team right now.
Is this at Chicago? I believe it is, right?
This is in
This is
Chicago.
in Chicago.
Take the Bears. I mean, you'll probably be right.
Dude, have you watched Bears football?
But
have you watched Niner football?
I've watched, but believe me, I've watched both. I watched that Niner game on Sunday night. I did. This one's a toss up. I think, you've got to bounce back if you're Chicago. I mean, that is one of the worst games I think they've played in the Nagy era. I'm just saying, Nagy's never had a losing season. Look, as much as people want to clown him, that's just how it is. I think they bounce back at home. The Chicago fans, they get, they're pretty loud up there. And I think like you said, right, the Niners morale is really down. One thing is Allen Robinson could be on the trade block in the coming days. Yeah, I'm going to take Chicago here. I'm not confident again. This is just a weird pick, but I think that defense is still good. I mean, I know they got gashed by, the goat of all goats, but a lot of it was just in the red zone, but yeah, I'm going to take Chicago, I guess. Not confident. Khalil Herbert is.
That's a trade Kansas City has to make.
Huh? Yeah.
That's a trade Kansas City has to make.
That'd be a good one.
I think that would be perfect for that offense. Quickly to finish up the episode, we have two more picks. We have the Patriots and the Chargers. I'm going to go with the upset here. I kind of hinted at it earlier. I think that the Patriots, with the Chargers' bad run defense, with Bill's ability to, even though Justin Herbert has been great, with his ability to kind of shut down young quarterbacks when he wants to, and the morale that this team is playing with right now, coming off of that big win against the Jets, I think I'm going to go with the Patriots. I think this is kind of like the right time, right place for them. I just think they're going to be able to run well. Of course, Sugar said start Damian Harris. I would agree. I think they can come out and they can win this game. Of course, not all that confident in it. It feels it's kind of hard to pick against the Chargers, but the last couple of weeks, the Chargers, they've shown that if they don't hit that big play, that their offense can kind of sputter a little bit. Bill does a great job taking away the big play.
Last year, Bill Belichick came into SoFi Stadium and won 45-0. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I think it's going to be a tight one the whole way. I'm going against my gut here. My gut said take the Pats, but I'm going to go with the Chargers at home. And even though I talked about them being in the wild card race, it's just something is telling me the Chargers are going to win this game and get back on track. I don't know. In their building, I can't count out Bill Belichick, but it's just a better Chargers team. And I think it's going to be a close game the whole way, but going against my gut, and I'm taking the Chargers.
Wait, this is at SoFi? Is that SoFi?
This is
I think it's in SoFi.
Yeah. Okay, good. Sorry, I'm messing up my home in a way. That's just weird. Okay. I think the timing part, I disagree with you. I think the worst part is they're playing the Chargers off a bye.
That is true.
They're well rested.
I think Brandon Staley is one of those coaches that says, hey, we got beat up on 3rd and 4th down. Let's really hone in for these next 2 weeks, get focused up. They're getting healthy, obviously, nicks and bruises, I think obviously can get healed up in 2 weeks. I'm going to take the Chargers here. Again, upset can easily happen. Again, you saw it, last year. Chargers were favored in that game and the Patriots just dominated. But I got the Chargers here. I don't think it's going to be, anything, of a blowout, but the Pats have played close in pretty much every game except New Orleans. So I got the Chargers in this one.
Our last game of the week, Cowboys versus Vikings. I've said it once and I'll say it again. If I'm going to say that the Cowboys and regard them as one of the best teams in the league, I cannot doubt them in matchups like this. I think the Cowboys are easily the better team. I have not been a huge fan of what the Vikings have done so far this season. I feel like they've gotten some wins they maybe haven't deserved. And I just feel like at some point the wheels are going to fall off a little bit more and they might start taking a little bit of a nosedive. I'm going with the Cowboys in this one. A little part of me still feels bad about, picking the Cowboys automatically in these games because it's tough to see them as, you can always bet on them, but I got to do it going with the Cowboys.
Now there is contingency for this game because Dak's status is up in the air. Right now I'm going to go with the Cowboys, assuming Dak plays. I think it's going to be a shootout. Both teams are coming off buys, so fresh legs. I'm expecting a lot of big plays. I'm going to go with the Cowboys in a very close game.
This one's tough because I know you two aren't, but I am high on Minnesota. And Jack, like you said, some wins aren't deserved, but also some of their losses aren't deserved. The Bengals one you could argue, and the Arizona one you can argue. So I think for Minnesota, I think they're a fringe playoff team. I still am holding out hope on my take that they do make it. But what are they? 3-3 right now. So there's a chance, and I'm gonna go with Dallas again. The contingency on Dak will play heavy into this. But you're right. I just trust Dak more than Kirk Cousins in a primetime matchup. That is honestly what it comes down to, and which is ironic because Kirk has been playing really good. It's just we haven't seen him in a big light yet. They haven't played in a primetime game. They've just been kind of eking out these wins, eking out some of these losses, just quietly moving along. But this is their first time where people will really get to see them in the spotlight, see some of their playmakers kind of show out. But yeah, we'll see. I think Dak will just make that one extra play that Kirk Cousins can.
Yeah, we'll see if wide receiver one, Justin Jefferson, can make a play too, bring the Vikings a win.
It's Adam Thielen still. If you watch the tape, if you watch the film, Thielen still garners the number one corner. And it's still Thielen who's the best route runner and the best red zone threat. But people don't want to listen because Adam Thielen isn't as flashy and can't
Thielen over Jefferson as a route runner
after he scores a touchdown. Just watch the tape. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not. This isn't even biased. It's just what I see and eye test. My eye test isn't wrong.
No, it's biased.
Folks, it's biased.
Anyways,
my eye test is not wrong.
All right, we'll see. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Let us know if you're on YouTube down in the comments, your picks for some of these games, what you thought of our takeaways, what were some of your takeaways, and also what you thought of the new fantasy football segment. While you're there, please consider leaving a like and hitting the subscribe button. We'd really appreciate any support. You guys are real ones. If you're still here this late in the episode, if you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you guys know what to do. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great football weekend, a great Halloween weekend. Let us know also down in the comments, what are you going for Halloween? But thank you guys so much for listening. We've been the Cold Hard Truth Podcast, and we will see you next time.